Captain Elena Vasquez floated through the metal halls of Kepler Station. The station spun slowly around the bright orange star called Kepler 442. Below them, a green and blue planet turned in space like a giant marble. Elena had been living on this station for 2 years now. She loved the view. Elena was human. Half of the people on the station were human like her, the other half were different. They were called Zephyrians. The Zephyrians looked like walking crystals. Their bodies were made of clear blue stone that sparkled in the light. They had 4 arms and moved very smoothly. Their faces had no expression, but their eyes glowed soft white when they talked. Humans and Zephyrians had been friends for 15 years. They worked together. They shared their science and technology. They explored space together. Elena thought this was good. She had many Zephyrian friends on the station. Today was special. Elena and her team were going down to the planet to dig up old ruins. The planet had buildings that were very, very old. Older than humans, older than Zephyrians. Nobody knew who built them. Elena put on her spacesuit and walked to the shuttle bay. Her team was waiting for her. There was Dr. James Chun, a human who studied old things. There was Crickstal, a Zephyrian scientist with bright blue crystals on her arms. There was also Sergeant Mike Torres, a human soldier who kept them safe. "Ready to go, Captain?" asked Dr. Chun. He was excited. His eyes were bright and happy. "Yes, let's see what secrets this planet has," Elena said. The shuttle flew down through the planet's atmosphere. The air was thick and orange. Strange clouds floated by their windows. Soon they could see the ruins below. They looked like a city made of black stone. The buildings had strange shapes that hurt Elena's eyes to look at. They landed near the biggest building. It was tall like a mountain. It had holes in its sides that went deep into darkness. The team walked toward it with their tools and lights. "The readings are very strong here," said Crickstal. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "There is technology inside?" "Very powerful technology." They went into the dark building. Their lights showed walls covered in symbols. The symbols glowed faintly when their lights hit them. Elena felt strange looking at them. They seemed to move when she was not looking directly at them. "These symbols are not like anything we have seen before," said Dr. Chun. He was taking pictures with his camera. "They are older than both our species, much older." They walked deeper into the building. The halls went down and down. After an hour of walking, they found a huge room. The room was round and had a high ceiling. In the center was a machine. The machine was made of the same black stone as the building. It hummed softly with power. "My God," whispered Elena. "How is it still working after all this time?" Crickstal moved her 4 arms over a device she carried. "The energy readings are incredible. This machine uses quantum field manipulation. That technology is beyond what either of our species can do." Elena felt excited and scared at the same time. "What do you think it does?" "I do not know," said Crickstal. "But we must study it carefully." They spent hours taking pictures and measurements. The machine seemed to watch them as they worked. Elena could not shake the feeling that it was alive somehow. Then Dr. Chun found something that changed everything. Behind the machine was a wall covered in more symbols. But these symbols were different. They showed pictures of the galaxy. They showed many different alien species. And they showed what looked like a great war. "Elena, you need to see this," called Dr. Chun. His voice was shaking. Elena hurried over. The wall showed a story in pictures. The story was about a species called the predecessors. They were the ones who built this place. The pictures showed them as tall beings made of light. They had technology that could change reality itself. The pictures showed the predecessors fighting a great war against something dark and terrible. At the end of the war, the predecessors disappeared, but they left their technology behind. They left it for someone else to find. "This is amazing," said Elena. "We need to tell the station about this right away." Elena tried to contact Kepler Station on her radio, but all she heard was static. "That's strange. We should be able to reach the station from here." Sergeant Torres checked his equipment. "My equipment is working fine, but I'm not getting any signals from the station either." A cold feeling grew in Elena's stomach. "Let's head back to the shuttle," Something is wrong. As they walked back through the dark halls, Elena's radio suddenly came to life. But the voice she heard was not from her station. It was from a Zephyrian ship. "Attention, human vessel. You will surrender immediately. Any resistance will result in your destruction." Elena and her team ran toward the exit. When they reached the surface, they saw something terrible in the sky. Huge Zephyrian ships floated above them like metal clouds. Their shuttle was gone. It had been destroyed. "What is happening?" asked Dr. Chun. Before Elena could answer, Zephyrian soldiers came out from behind the ruins. They carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. Elena had never seen Zephyrians carry weapons before. "Captain Vasquez," said one of the soldiers. Its voice was different from Crystal's voice. It was cold and hard. "You will come with us. Your government has surrendered to the Zephyrian hegemony. Humanity is now under our protection." Elena looked at Crystal. Her friend's crystal face showed no emotion. But her eyes had changed. They no longer glowed soft white. Now they blazed with bright blue light. "Crystal," Elena said, "what is this?" "We are allies. We are friends." Crystal tilted her crystal head. Friendship was a useful tool. But humanity has become too dangerous to remain free. Your species is unpredictable. You change too quickly. You cannot be trusted with advanced technology. Elena felt her heart break. "The ruins, you knew about them, didn't you? This was all planned. The predecessor sites contained technology that could threaten the stability of the galaxy," said Crystal. "Humans would use such power unwisely. We have studied your species for 15 years. We know how you think, how you fight, how you die." Sergeant Torres moved his hand toward his weapon. "Elena, we need to run." Now, the Zephyrian soldiers raised their blue weapons. Elena grabbed Dr. Chun and Torres and dove behind a large piece of broken stone. Blue energy beams burned the air where they had been standing. "The shuttle is gone," yelled Torres over the sound of weapons fire. "How do we get out of here?" Elena looked around desperately. Then she remembered something from the ruins. The machine in the deep room. It was still working. Maybe it could help them. "Follow me," she shouted. "Back into the ruins." They ran toward the dark entrance as blue energy beams lit up the air around them. Elena's mind raced. Everything had changed in just a few minutes. Their allies had become their enemies. Their friends had become their hunters. As they ran through the dark halls, Elena heard more terrible sounds from her radio. Voices screaming for help. Cities under attack. Ships exploding in space. The betrayal was not just happening here. It was happening everywhere humans lived. Elena realized that this was not just an attack. This was the end of everything she had ever known. The war for humanity's survival had begun. And they were already losing. The three humans ran deeper into the ancient ruins, chased by their former friends. Behind them, the orange sky filled with more Zephyrian ships. Above them, in space, Kepler Station burned like a dying star. The age of human Zephyrian friendship was over. The age of war had begun. 3 months had passed since the day everything changed. Elena Vasquez floated in the dark space between asteroids. Her small ship was hidden among the rocks and ice. She had not seen the sun for weeks. Elena was no longer a captain of the Terran. The Defense Corps was gone. Most of Earth's ships were destroyed or captured. The few that remained were scattered across space like seeds in the wind. Elena was now something else. She was a rebel. A fighter hiding in the shadows. Her ship was tiny and old. It barely had enough air to breathe. The walls were cold and metal. Water dripped from broken pipes. The lights flickered on and off. But it was home now. It was all she had left. Dr. James Chun was with her. He had lost weight, and his hair was now gray. The cheerful scientist was gone. In his place was a tired man who rarely smiled. He spent his days studying data from the predecessor ruins. He worked day and night trying to find something that could help humanity survive. Colonel Marcus Torres was also on the ship. Elena had met him after escaping from the planet. Torres was older than Elena. His face was hard and his eyes were sad. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He lost his. wife and 2 children in the first attack. Now he lived only for revenge. "Any word from the other resistance cells?" Elena asked Torres. Torres shook his head. 3 more went silent this week. "Zephyrians are hunting us down one by one. We're running out of places to hide." Elena looked out the small window at the stars. Once, those stars had seemed friendly. Now they felt cold and hostile. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were dead or worse. The Zephyrians had not just attacked with weapons. They had attacked with lies and betrayal. For 15 years they had been preparing for this moment. They had put their people in human governments. They had learned human secrets. They had studied human weaknesses. The worst part was the processing centers. The Zephyrians did not just kill humans, they changed them. They put machines in human brains that made them obey. The processed humans looked the same on the outside, but inside they were different. They were no longer truly human. Elena had seen processed humans on the news broadcasts. They stood perfectly still. They spoke in flat, emotionless voices. They followed orders without question. They had become human-shaped robots serving their crystal masters. "Elena," called Dr. Chun from his workstation. "I found something. You need to see this." Elena floated over to Chun's small workspace. The walls were covered with pictures and symbols from the predecessor ruins. Chun had been trying to understand their technology for months. "What did you find?" Elena asked. Chun pointed to a series of symbols on his screen. "These symbols appear in every predecessor site we've found. They're instructions, a manual of some kind." "Instructions for what? For transcendence? The predecessors didn't die out?" "They became something else. Something beyond physical matter. They left their technology behind as a test." Elena studied the symbols. They hurt her eyes to look at directly. A test for who? For any species desperate enough to try. The technology responds to extreme emotions. Fear, anger, love, desperation. Things that humans feel strongly but Zephyrians do not. Torres floated over to join them. "Are you saying this alien technology only works for humans?" "Not only humans. But it works better for humans than for Zephyrians. Their crystal minds are too logical, too ordered. The technology needs chaos. It needs the kind of emotional chaos that humans are famous for." Elena felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. "Could we use this technology to fight back?" "Maybe. But it's dangerous. The few humans who have tried to use predecessor tech have either died or gone insane. The power is incredible, but it comes with a terrible price." Their conversation was interrupted by an alarm. Red lights flashed on their small control panel. Torres quickly moved to the pilot's seat. "Zephyrian patrol ships," he said. 3 of them. They're scanning the asteroid field." Elena felt her heart pound. If they were found, they would be captured or killed. Worse, they might be processed. Turned into emotionless servants of the Crystal Empire. "Can we run?" she asked. "Not without them seeing us?" "Our engines are too loud. We need to stay quiet and hope they don't find us." The 3 humans floated in silence. Outside their tiny ship, blue lights swept back and forth among the asteroids. The Zephyrian ships moved like hunting sharks. Patient and deadly, Elena closed her eyes and tried to stay calm. She thought about her sister Sarah on New Geneva. Sarah had 2 young children. Elena hoped they had escaped before the Zephyrians arrived, but deep down she feared the worst. The scanning lights came closer. Elena could hear the hum of Zephyrian engines through the ship's hull. Any moment now they would be discovered. Then something strange happened. One of the predecessor artifacts that Dr. Chun had been studying began to glow. The strange black stone pulsed with soft light. The glow grew brighter as Elena's fear grew stronger. "Chun," whispered Elena, "your artifact, it's reacting to something." She looked at the glowing stone with wide eyes. "It's responding to your emotions. Your fear is powering it somehow." The artifact pulsed brighter. Elena felt something change in the air around them. The Zephyrian scanning beams passed right through their ship without detecting them. It was as if they had become invisible. The 3 Zephyrian ships continued their search for another hour. Then they gave up and flew away. Elena and her friends were safe. How did that happen? Asked Torres. Chun stared at the artifact, which had stopped glowing. The predecessor technology created some kind of field around our ship. It hid us from their sensors. Elena touched the smooth black stone. It felt warm under her fingers. You said the technology responds to human emotions. What if we could learn to control it? It's possible. But like I said, it's dangerous. The power could destroy your mind. Elena thought about the billions of dead humans. She thought about the processing centers. She thought about her sister and her young children. Sometimes dangerous was the only choice left. I want to try, she said. Torres looked at her with concern. Elena, you could die or worse. I'm already dying. We all are. Humanity is dying piece by piece. At least this way, we might have a chance to fight back. Over the following weeks, Elena began training with the predecessor artifact. Chun had found instructions in the alien symbols. The process was painful and frightening. Elena had to open her mind to the ancient technology. She had to let it see her deepest fears and strongest emotions. During her first successful attempt, Elena made a small tool float across the room without touching it. The effort left her exhausted and sick. But it worked. She had used alien technology that was older than human civilization. As she practiced, Elena began to hear stories from other resistance cells. Humans across the galaxy were discovering predecessor sites. Some were trying to use the technology. Most failed and died. But a few succeeded. These successful humans were calling themselves the Evolved. They could do impossible things. They could walk through walls. They could see the future. They could fight Zephyrian soldiers with their bare hands, but Elena also heard darker stories. Some of the Evolved were changing in other ways. They were becoming cold and distant. They were losing their humanity bit by bit. The power was changing them into something that was no longer quite human. Elena knew the risks. But she also knew that normal weapons could not defeat the Zephyrians. Humanity needed something more. Something that their crystal enemies could not understand or copy. As Elena practiced with the alien artifact, she received a message that changed everything. It was from her sister Sarah on New Geneva, but Sarah's voice was different, flat and emotionless. Hello, Elena, said the recorded message. I am safe and well. The Zephyrians are helping us build a better world. You should surrender and join? Yes, fighting is pointless. Peace is better than war. Elena knew immediately what had happened. Sarah had been processed. Her sister was gone, replaced by a human-shaped servant of the Crystal Empire. Elena held the predecessor artifact tighter. Power flowed through her hands like electricity. For the first time since the war began, she smiled. It was not a kind smile. The Zephyrians thought they had one. They thought humans were weak and helpless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Humanity's greatest weakness was about to become their greatest strength. The war was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. 6 months had passed since Elena first touched the predecessor artifact. She was different now. Her eyes sometimes glowed with the same soft light as the ancient stones. Her hair had turned partially white. When she concentrated, the air around her seemed to shimmer like heat waves. Elena stood in the cargo bay of their hidden ship. In front of her, a metal box floated in the air without any support. She was not touching it. She was moving it with her mind. The box spun slowly, then split apart into dozens of pieces. The pieces danced in the air like birds before coming back together. Dr. Chun watched from the doorway. His face showed wonder and fear. How do you feel? He asked. Elena let the box fall to the floor with a loud crash. Different. Sometimes I forget things that used to be important to me. My childhood. My favorite foods. It's like the power is burning away pieces of who I used to be. We could stop the training, Chun said. Find another way to fight. Elena shook her head. There is no other way. The Zephyrians are too strong, too organized. This is our only chance. Over the past months, Elena had learned to do impossible. things. She could walk through solid walls by changing her body into something like light. She could disappear and reappear in different places. She could see things that had not happened yet by looking at the patterns of probability that flowed around everything, but each time she used these powers, she lost something. Memories faded, emotions became weaker. Sometimes she looked at Torres and Chun and had trouble remembering why she cared about them. The worst part was the dreams. When Elena slept, she dreamed of the predecessors. She saw their great war against something dark and terrible. She saw them making the choice to leave their physical bodies behind and become beings of pure thought. In the dreams, they spoke to her in voices like music. "You're becoming like us," they said. "You are evolving beyond the limits of flesh and blood. Soon you will be free of all weakness." Elena always woke up from these dreams feeling cold and empty. She did not want to be free of weakness. Her weaknesses were what made her human. "Elena," called Torres from the bridge. "We're getting a transmission. It's from the resistance cell on Proxima Centauri." Elena walked to the bridge. On the screen was Captain Rebecca Martinez. Elena had known Rebecca before the war. She had been a good officer and a kind person. Now Rebecca looked different. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, and her movements were too smooth, too perfect. "Elena," said Rebecca, "we found something big. A predecessor facility on Proxima Centauri B. It's still active, still functional, but it's guarded by Zephyrian forces." "What kind of facility?" Elena asked. "According to our scans, it's some kind of consciousness transfer device. The predecessors used it to leave their physical bodies and become beings of pure energy. If we could capture it." Elena understood immediately. The device could give humanity the power to fight the Zephyrians as equals. But it would also mean giving up their humanity entirely. How many Zephyrians are guarding it? Torres asked. "A full battle group, 12 ships, thousands of crystal soldiers. It would be a suicide mission for normal humans." Elena looked at her hands. They were glowing faintly now without her even trying. "But not for the evolved." "Exactly. I've been in contact with others like us. We could work together. Pool our abilities. We might actually be able to take the facility." Elena thought about this. She had heard stories of other humans who had learned to use predecessor technology. They called themselves the Evolved. They could do amazing things. But they were also changing, becoming less human with each use of their powers. "How many evolved do you have?" Elena asked. 15. Plus you would make 16. Enough to assault the facility if we coordinate our attack perfectly. Elena looked at Chun and Torres. They both looked worried. They knew what this meant. If Elena joined this mission, she would have to use her powers more than ever before. She might not come back as the same person who left. "I need time to think," Elena said. Rebecca nodded. "We're moving to the rendezvous point at Volf 359. Join US when you're ready, but don't take too long." Every day we wait, more humans are processed. The transmission ended. Elena sat in silence for a long moment. She thought about her sister Sarah and the flat, emotionless voice in that last message. She thought about the billions of humans who had already died or been processed. She thought about the children who would never grow up free. "I have to go," she said finally. "Elena," said Chun, "using your powers that much could kill you. Or worse, you could become something that isn't human anymore." "I'm already becoming something that isn't human. At least this way, it might serve a purpose." Torres put his hand on her shoulder. "We'll come with you." Elena shook her head. "This is something only the Evolved can do. Normal humans would just be a liability." "Then we'll wait for you," Torres sighed. "However long it takes." Elena smiled. It was the first real smile she had shown in weeks. "Thank you." 3 days later, Elena's ship arrived at Volf 359. The rendezvous point was hidden in the shadow of a large asteroid. As Elena approached, she saw other small ships docked to the rock. The other Evolved were already here. Elena met them in a large cave that had been carved into the asteroid. The moment she saw them, she knew they were like her. They all had the same faint glow in their eyes. They all moved with the same unnatural grace. They were human, but they were also something more. Rebecca Martinez introduced Elena to the others. There was David Kim, who could phase through solid matter. There was Anna Petrov, who could manipulate gravity. There was Carlos Mendez, who could see possible futures. Each of them had paid a price for their power. Each of them had lost pieces of their humanity. The plan is simple, Rebecca explained. We approach Proxima Centauri b from different directions. The Zephyrians won't expect an attack from beings who can ignore their shields and armor. We infiltrate the facility, secure the consciousness transfer device, and get out. What about the Zephyrian forces? Asked Anna. Rebecca's expression grew. Hard. We do whatever is necessary. The Zephyrians chose to be our enemies. They chose to process our families and friends. They made their choice. Elena felt a chill. Rebecca's voice had the same flat quality that processed humans had. The line between evolved and processed was becoming blurrier. The attack began 3 days later. Elena's ship was the first to reach the planet. As she descended through the atmosphere, she could see the predecessor facility in the distance. It was a massive structure made of the same black stone as the ruins she had first discovered, but this one was different. It pulsed with energy. It was alive. Zephyrian ships moved to intercept her. Blue energy beams lit up the sky around her ship, but Elena was ready. She used her powers to phase her entire ship out of normal space. The Zephyrian weapons passed harmlessly through her. She landed near the facility and stepped out. Zephyrian soldiers were waiting for her. They raised their crystal weapons and fired. But Elena was no longer entirely physical. The energy beams passed through her like she was made of smoke. Elena raised her hand. Power flowed through her like lightning. The Zephyrian soldiers were thrown backward by an invisible force. Some of them shattered like glass. Others simply stopped moving. Their crystal minds overloaded by energies they could not understand around the facility. The other evolved were making their own attacks. David Kim walked through the walls like they were not there. Anna Petrov made Zephyrian ships fall from the sky by reversing gravity around them. Carlos Mendez moved like he knew where every enemy shot would be before it was fired, but as Elena fought, she felt more of herself slipping away. Her memories of childhood became fuzzy, her emotions became distant. She was becoming something powerful and terrible. Something that might save humanity by ceasing to be human herself. Elena reached the heart of the facility. There, floating in a chamber of swirling energy, was the consciousness transfer device. It was beautiful and horrible at the same time. It promised ultimate power at the cost of everything that made life worth living. Elena stared at the device and made her choice. She would save humanity. Even if it meant losing her own humanity in the process. Even if it meant becoming something her friends would no longer recognize. She reached out and touched the device. Power beyond imagination flowed into her. For a moment, Elena Vasquez ceased to exist. In her place was something new. Something evolved. Something that might be humanity's salvation or its final transformation into something else entirely. The war had changed again, and so had Elena. Elena floated in the empty space between dimensions. She was no longer entirely in the normal world. Part of her existed in the quantum realm where the predecessors had gone. She could see reality from the outside like looking at a painting. Instead of being inside it, when she touched the consciousness transfer device, everything changed. The power that flowed into her was beyond anything she had imagined. She could bend space and time. She could exist in multiple places at once. She could see the threads that connected all living things, but the price was terrible. Elena could barely remember her own name. Her memories of being human were fading like dreams at dawn. Sometimes she forgot why she was fighting. Sometimes she forgot that she had ever been anything other than energy and light. The other evolved, found her floating above the predecessor facility. Her body glowed like a small star. When she spoke, her voice echoed from everywhere at once. "The device is secured," Elena said. Her words sounded strange and musical. "We can proceed to the Next phase. Rebecca Martinez looked at Elena with worry and fear. Elena? Are you still in there? Elena turned to look at Rebecca. For a moment she did not recognize her. Then fragments of memory returned. Rebecca, friend, human, ally. I am still here. Elena said, but I am also something else now, something more. The Evolved had won the battle for the facility, but the victory felt hollow. They had gained incredible power, but they were losing themselves in the process. Each use of their abilities burned away more of their humanity. Over the following weeks, the Evolved began coordinating attacks across human space. They could do things that seemed impossible to the Zephyrians. They walked through walls. They appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They turned Zephyrian weapons against their users, but the Zephyrians adapted quickly. They began using processed humans as shields. They knew that the Evolved still had enough humanity left to hesitate before killing innocent people. Elena discovered this during an attack on a Zephyrian supply depot on Mars. She phased through the walls of the facility, ready to destroy the crystal soldiers inside. But when she entered the main chamber, she found something that stopped her cold. Hundreds of processed humans stood in perfect rows. They wore gray uniforms and had blank expressions on their faces. Among them, Elena saw children, young boys, and girls who had been taken from their families and changed into servants. The Zephyrian commander, a tall crystal being with 6 arms, spoke to Elena in its wind chime voice. You will not attack. These humans are under our protection. Any assault on this facility will result in their destruction. Elena floated in the air, surrounded by energy that could level the entire building, but she could not act. Even with most of her humanity burned away, she could not bring herself to harm innocent people. You see, said the Zephyrian commander, you are still weak, still limited by your attachment to your inferior species. This is why you will lose. Elena left the facility without attacking, but the encounter taught her something important. The Zephyrians understood human nature better than humans understood it themselves. They knew exactly which buttons to push. When Elena returned to the asteroid base, she found the other Evolved waiting for her. They had all encountered the same problem. Everywhere they tried to attack, the Zephyrians had placed processed humans as shields. We need a new strategy, said David Kim. His form flickered between solid and translucent. The Zephyrians are using our own people against us. Maybe we should just accept it, said Anna Petrov. Her voice was becoming more distant each day. Maybe it is time to stop being human entirely. The predecessors left their physical forms behind. Perhaps we should do the same. Elena felt a chill at Anna's words. She was talking like the processed humans talked, flat, emotionless, logical. No, Elena said. If we stop being human, then the Zephyrians have already won. We will have become the very thing we are fighting against. Rebecca appeared on the view screen. She was calling from Earth orbit. Her image was distorted and full of static. Elena, you need to see this, Rebecca said. The Zephyrians are broadcasting something from Earth, something terrible. The transmission changed to show the surface of Earth. Elena's home planet was barely recognizable. The blue skies were gray with smoke. The green continents were covered with massive crystal structures. And in the center of it all was a figure that made Elena's heart break. It was a human man in an expensive suit. He stood behind a podium, speaking to cameras. His face was familiar. Elena recognized him as Chancellor Morrison, the leader of Earth's government, but something was wrong with his eyes. They glowed with the same blue light as processed humans. My fellow humans, Morrison said in a flat, emotionless voice. The war is over. The Zephyrian hegemony has offered us a place in their galactic civilization. All we must do is accept their guidance, accept their improvements to our flawed nature. Behind Morrison, Elena could see other processed humans, scientists, generals, politicians. All of them had the same blank expressions. All of them had betrayed their own species. The terrorists who call themselves the Evolved are a threat to peace, Morrison continued. They used dangerous alien technology that could destroy reality itself. They must be stopped for the good of all sentient life. The transmission showed images of the evolved in action, but the images were edited to make them look like monsters. Elena saw herself destroying Zephyria's ships, but the footage made it look like she was attacking human civilians. Any human who aids the evolved will be considered an enemy of peace, Morrison said. But those who surrender will be welcomed into our new world, a world without war, without suffering, without the chaos of uncontrolled emotion. The transmission ended. Elena stared at the black screen for a long moment. She realized that the Zephyrians had been planning this for longer than anyone imagined. They had not just conquered humanity with weapons. They had conquered them with lies and false promises. "They're turning our own people against us," said David Kim. "It's worse than that," Elena said. "They're offering humans a choice. Join them willingly or be destroyed by the terrorist evolved. Many humans will choose to surrender." Elena was right. Over the following days, reports came in from across human space. Entire colonies were surrendering to the Zephyrians. Families were turning in their own relatives who supported the resistance. The evolved went from being heroes to being hunted criminals overnight, but Elena learned something else during this dark time. She learned that not all humans could be broken. In the deepest parts of space, in hidden colonies and secret bases, some humans refused to surrender. They organized new resistance cells. They found ways to fight back without using predecessor technology. These unaltered humans reminded Elena of something important. They reminded her what she was fighting for. Not just survival, but the right to remain human. The right to feel emotions, even painful ones. The right to make mistakes. The right to be chaotic and unpredictable and gloriously flawed. Elena made a decision. She would return to Earth. She would face Chancellor Morrison and the processed humans who served him. She would show the galaxy that humanity was worth saving, even if saving it meant sacrificing herself. But first, she needed to do something even more dangerous. She needed to enter the quantum realm where the predecessors waited. She needed to confront the ancient beings who had started this whole cycle of transcendence and transformation. Elena gathered the other evolved around her. "I'm going into the quantum realm," she announced. "I'm going to find the predecessors and demand answers." "That's suicide," said Rebecca. "The quantum realm exists outside normal space and time. You could be lost forever." "Maybe," Elena said. "But I need to understand what the predecessors really want. Why they left this technology behind. What their real plan is." Elena closed her eyes and felt the power within her respond. Reality became thin around her. She could see through the solid walls of the asteroid, through the vacuum of space, through the barriers between dimensions. With a final look at her friends, Elena stepped out of normal reality and into the realm of pure consciousness. She left behind the physical universe and entered a place where thought was the only reality. In the quantum realm, she would find answers. But she would also discover that the war between humans and Zephyrians was just the beginning of something much larger and more terrible. The predecessors had been waiting for her. They had been waiting for this moment for millions of years, and they were ready to reveal the truth about what they really wanted from the universe. Elena's greatest test was about to begin. Elena found herself in a place that was not a place. The quantum realm had no up or down, no walls or sky. Everything was made of light and thought and possibility. She floated in an ocean of pure consciousness, surrounded by patterns that shifted and changed like living music, and she saw them. The predecessors, they appeared as beings of golden light, tall and graceful beyond anything Elena had ever imagined. Their forms shifted constantly, sometimes looking almost human, sometimes becoming abstract patterns of energy. When they spoke, their voices came from everywhere at once. "Welcome, young one," said the largest of the predecessors. "We have been waiting for you to find us." Elena tried to speak but found she had no voice in this place. Instead, her thoughts became words that echoed in the quantum space around her. "Why?" Elena asked. "Why did you leave your technology behind?" Why did you start this war? The predecessors moved closer. Elena could feel their ancient minds touching hers. They were old beyond measure. They had seen the birth and death of 1,000 galaxies. We did not start this war, said another predecessor. We simply provided the tools. The choice to use them was yours, but you knew what would happen, Elena said. You knew that species would fight over your technology. You knew they would transform themselves trying to use it. Yes, admitted the first predecessor, we knew. Because we experienced the same thing long ago, we fought our own wars. We transformed ourselves. We transcended our physical forms to become what we are now. Elena felt a chill of understanding. This has all happened before, many times, said a third predecessor. We were once physical beings like you. We had emotions and bodies and the capacity for both great love and terrible hate. But we evolved beyond those limitations. The quantum realm around Elena shifted, showing her visions of the past. She saw the predecessors when they were still physical beings. They looked different from humans or Zephyrians, but they had the same struggles, the same wars, the same choices between remaining themselves or becoming something more powerful. But you lost something, Elena said, understanding flooding through her. You became powerful, but you stopped being able to feel, to love, to create new life. Emotion is inefficient, said the first predecessor. Love leads to irrationality. Hate leads to destruction. By leaving these things behind, we achieved perfect order, perfect peace. Perfect emptiness, Elena countered. The predecessors were silent for a moment. Elena could feel something like sadness in their thoughts, though they tried to hide it. We have watched the universe for millions of years, said the second predecessor. We have seen species rise and fall. But always they face the same choice: remain limited by their emotions and bodies or transcend to become like us. Until now, said the third predecessor, you are different. Your species and the Zephyrians are both evolving, but in different ways. The outcome of your war will determine the future of all life in the galaxy. Elena understood now. The predecessors had not left their technology randomly. They had been conducting an experiment, testing different species to see if any of them could find a third path, a way to evolve without losing what made life worth living. What happens if we refuse to transcend? Elena asked. Then you remain trapped by your limitations forever, said the first predecessor. The Zephyrians will continue to process humans until none are left free. Eventually, all emotion and chaos will be eliminated from the galaxy. Perfect order will reign. And if we do transcend, if we become like you, then all physical life will eventually end. All beings will become pure consciousness, floating in the quantum realm forever. There will be no more birth, no more growth, no more discovery, only existence without purpose. Elena felt the weight of the choice settling on her shoulders. The future of all life in the galaxy depended on what she did next. She could use the full power of the predecessor technology to end the war instantly. But doing so would start humanity down the path to becoming empty beings of light. Or she could refuse the power and watch as humanity was slowly ground down by the Zephyrian war machine. There's a third option, Elena said suddenly. The predecessors stopped moving. Elena could feel their attention focusing on her like the light of 1,000 suns. Speak, said the first predecessor. What if we cut the connection? What if we severed the link between your technology and our universe? No more transcendence, no more processing? Both species would have to find their own way forward. Impossible, said the second predecessor. The quantum connection has existed for millions of years. It cannot be broken. It can, Elena said. She could see the patterns now, the threads of energy that connected the quantum realm to normal space. I can break it. But it would require me to sacrifice all the power I have gained. It would burn out every piece of predecessor technology in the galaxy. You would doom your species to defeat, warned the third predecessor. Without our technology, you cannot match the Zephyrians' crystal-based weapons. Maybe, Elena said. But at least we would face that defeat as ourselves. As humans, Elena made her choice. She reached out with her mind and grasped the quantum threads that connected the predecessor realm to normal space. The power that flowed through her was incredible, like holding on to lightning with her bare hands. "Stop," commanded the first predecessor. "You do not understand what you are doing." "I understand perfectly," Elena said. "I am choosing to remain human." Elena pulled with all her strength. The quantum threads began to stretch and fray. Reality shuddered around her. She felt the predecessor technology throughout the galaxy beginning to shut down. Every evolved human, every quantum weapon, every consciousness transfer device went dark. The effort was destroying her. Elena felt her enhanced abilities burning away like paper in a fire. Her consciousness began to fade back toward normal human limits, but she did not stop. "Why?" asked the first predecessor. Elena could hear genuine confusion in its voice. "Why? Choose limitation over transcendence? Why choose struggle over peace?" "Because," Elena said through gritted teeth, "the struggle is what makes us alive. The limitations are what make our choices matter. Without them, we are just empty light pretending to be gods." With a final surge of will, Elena severed the connection. The quantum realm shattered around her like broken glass. The predecessors' voices faded into silence. Elena fell through dimensions, tumbling back toward the physical universe. She woke up floating in space near the asteroid base. Her ship's emergency systems had activated, pulling her aboard when her life signs had disappeared. Torres and Chun were waiting for her, their faces full of worry. "Elena," Chun said, "what happened?" "All the predecessor artifacts just went dead." Elena tried to speak but found her voice was back to normal. "Human, limited," she smiled. "I cut the connection," she said. "No more predecessor technology for anyone," Torres looked confused. "But how do we fight the Zephyrians now? Their crystal weapons still work." Elena thought about this. It was true that humanity had lost their supernatural advantages, but they had gained something else. They had gained the knowledge that the Zephyrians were not invincible gods. They were just another species struggling with their own limitations. Over the following months, Elena's prediction proved correct. Without predecessor technology to rely on, both humans and Zephyrians had to fight with conventional weapons and tactics. The playing field was more level now, but more importantly, the processed humans began to recover. Without the quantum interference from predecessor technology, the processing devices malfunctioned. Humans who had been turned into emotionless servants slowly began to remember who they were. Elena's sister Sarah was among the first to recover. When they were reunited, Sarah hugged Elena so tightly that it hurt. "I remember everything," Sarah said through tears. "I remember being processed. I remember serving them. But I also remember you. I remember love." The war continued for several more years, but it was a different kind of war now. Both sides began to see each other as people rather than enemies. Slowly, painfully, they began to negotiate. The peace treaty was signed on a neutral station orbiting a distant star. Elena, now an old woman with white hair and tired eyes, represented humanity. Across from her sat Admiral Kethver, the same Zephyrian who had betrayed her all those years ago. "We were wrong," Kethver said. His crystal voice carried something Elena had never heard from a Zephyrian before: regret. "We thought order was more important than freedom. We thought logic was more important than love." "We were both wrong about a lot of things," Elena replied, "but we can do better now." Elena spent her final years watching human and Zephyrian children play together in the rebuilt cities of Earth. The galaxy was not perfect. There were still conflicts and disagreements. But there was also hope. Late at night, Elena sometimes looked up at the stars and wondered if she had made the right choice. The universe was still chaotic and unpredictable. Species still struggled with poverty and disease and war, but they struggled as themselves. They faced their problems with their own strength and their own hearts. They remained gloriously, messily, beautifully alive. In the deepest space, new signals were being detected. Other species were watching humanity's example. For the first time in the galaxy's history, a species had been offered transcendence and chosen to remain themselves.